What's up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7 underscore D. And I've shown this book before. I might have shown volume 1. I don't know if that was volume 2. But America is a True Old World, volume 2, The Promised Land. And remember my encyclopedias, my Compton encyclopedias, I showed you how these different temples near the Grand Canyon. Here's the Shiva temple, Isis temple, Cheops temple. Alright, and there was different areas that was carved in the Grand Canyon that was named after Egyptian figures as well as Asiatic black figures over in Asia. Now, this is a book by Amenhotep Shavers El Bey. Right, and first thing I'm going to turn to page 61. I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to put a few things together. All right, I'm going to put a few things together. All right, let's see. We'll go here. I put a little light on it. Not too much light. Right here, and here's right here. And if I can get it, there, well, that's Memphis right here. What is it? The ancient Egyptian god Ptah is from the Americas, okay? Yes, Ptah, a pre-dynastic Egyptian Atlantean god, is from the Americas because his territory was Ptah, Utah, Judah territory, which covered Mexico and several states, California, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, and part of Oklahoma. Additionally, Ptah was also the chief god of Memphis, Tennessee, which was in the Americas, as we have proven above. He talked about Memphis, Tennessee above. Utah was named after a pre-dynastic Atlantean Egyptian god named Ptah. Ptah is basically an older form of Egyptian god Osiris. Oscar, as in Oscar, is an Arthur, King Arthur. The state of Utah was named after the ancient Egyptian god Ptah. This is very evident too, because all they did was change the letter P into a U to hide this fact. This explains the Egyptian giant mummies and pyramids that have been found in the Grand Canyon, which is in Arizona, aka Utah / Ptah territory. This also explains the Egyptian giant mummies that were found in Rachel, Nevada, which is Utah Ptah territory. Evidence of Egyptian giant mummies is the giant skull called the Lovelock skull because it was found in a cave in Lovelock, Nevada. They found many of these giant elongated skulls. These giants were Moors blacks because we are the only culture that would tie binding rope around the skull of a baby when the skull is still soft in a circular pattern to increase brain capacity, and spiral consciousness. I'm not going to read on with that aspect right there, but you've seen that when you even look at Akhenaten and Nefertiti, you've seen that elongated skull. All right, you've seen that elongated skull even on his kids, that they're tying a knot around elongated skull with those particular black folks. Now, as I read this, I want to emphasize this. There's too much documentation of black people already here in America, that we had empires in America. Anyone who's still telling you, I'm being honest with you, man. Anyone who's still telling you that majority of our people came in over a slave ship is highly ignorant. And I'm being kind with those words. They're ignorant. And this has nothing to do with no hotep, nothing. Our people are already here. There's too much documentation. But some of our people, they go to these universities, man, whether it's an historically white academic university or a Negro HBCU, they've been heavily indoctrinated with lies. And so these Negro teachers, I've said this in my other videos before, you got these Negro teachers who were trained by Negroes, who were educated by white folks, regurgitating the same lie they was given, saying that we're brought over in slave ships. Majority of us are already here. You had black folks ruling empires here in America. You had obviously Africa. You had black folks in Asia and Pacific. And you had black folks ruling Europe, the nobility. White folks come from Central Asia. They do not come from Europe. I have to emphasize that, man, because I'm sick and tired. Because I continue to hear ignorant niggers continue to push that damn lie about slave ships bring your black asses over here when you're already here. There's no excuse for this no more, man. But a lot of these so-called educated boule Negroes, who I do not like the boule Negroes, because all they care about is trying to imitate and be like white folks. I know because I've grown up around them. I've been around them all my life. Now, I mentioned Anubis before. All right, the ancient Egyptian god Anubis is from the Americas. It might be actually from Asia, but whatever. The ancient Egyptian god Anubis is from America because you can clearly see that Anubis is patterned after Xolotl. This is the Mexican dog, which is a native dog to the Americas. Xolotl dog, all right? It goes on. The ancient Egyptian god, excuse me, the ancient Egyptian god, let me get a good focus. The ancient Egyptian god Anubis is from the Americas because they found Anubis cave in Oklahoma, Utah territory, which is more evident that Moors blacks were over here long before any slave trade. Which is, this says, long before any slave trade. Okay, the Ogham or the Ogham, which is an ancient Irish and British alphabet that is derived from Africa, was used. These ancient Celts, Vikings, came to America long before Christopher Columbus. Okay, the original Vikings were Negroes, Celts, Negroes. Ancient Irish, Celts, and the British have strong Egyptian ties. When I connect before, talk about the Egyptians and the Vikings, similarities to some of them ships. Because the children of Israel are the Egyptians that fled Egypt from Pharaoh Akhenaten, was expelled from Egypt. All right, and he's talking about scholars confirm that Akhenaten was Moses of the Bible. And then I'm going to skip along because I'm not going to read all this. I'm going to skip along to page 68. Now this one, I talked about this numerous of times. If this is 68, I'm going to go to page 63. No, I'm going to 68. Because I'm going to skip along because there's so much thing that's in here that compare and contrast. You can look at it and you can pick up so many things. But I'm going to go to 68 right here. Upper Egypt was South America. All right. When discussing civilization, modern and ancient, the focus must always be on a huge source of fresh water for agricultural purposes, because without food, there's no civilization or life. Ancient Egypt thrived as a civilization because of tech and because of the Nile River, which produced fertile lands, necessary agriculture along the Nile. Due to split deposits, the Amazon is the largest and widest body of fresh water in the world, with a length of 4,000 miles long, allegedly. I said allegedly because some scientists argue that the Amazon is also the longest river in the world if you add in the adjacent Para estuary and the longest connecting tidal canal. I'm going to skip down, further down. Additional evidence that South America's Upper Egypt is the sheer number of pyramids in South America. Right? There's more pyramids in Heru, than all of Africa combined. Now, if we include the pyramids in Central America, it's not even a contest anymore, because we found thousands of pyramids in Guatemala, Mexico. Please keep in mind that the pyramids are the symbols of Atlantis in Egypt. Therefore, more pyramids on this side, the Americas, means that Egypt and Atlantis were in the Americas. Now I'm going to turn the page even further over, okay? I'm going to go even further over. And I'm going to go to page 80. I'm going to go to page 80. Hold on one second. All right, brothers and sisters. Now, I want to get my book together because I misplaced one of my books. But here it is right here. Timbuktu and the Kingdom of Mali. All right, Timbuktu and the Kingdom of Mali. Lower Timbuktu. Now, I want you, when I read this, I want you to pick up on certain things because I emphasized this before, man. I am tired of these Negroes, these Negro educators, these so-called historians who continue to teach you a lie. Continue to push this slave narrative. That's what you are. That is a lie. And I'm going to continue to bang on it because that information is inaccurate. But here we go. Let me get it focused. Lower Timbuktu. In California, there is a Timbuktu, California, and a Malibu, Mali, California. Let us start first with Timbuktu, California. Timbuktu means land of the blacks. I repeat, Timbuktu means land of the blacks. I'm going to say this again. Timbuktu means land of the blacks. Therefore, it is synonymous with Kush, black, Ethiopia, burnt face, and Egypt, burnt faces. Timbuktu was very significant in history because Timbuktu is heavily associated with the land of Kush/Kush, Ethiopia, and with the Blackamoors that did not invade Timbuktu in the 8th century but established it because the Khalifa Moors and Washita Moors were already over here in Americas. Queen Khalifa ruled California. Therefore, Timbuktu was established by the Caliph Moors. This was original Timbuktu because Americas is the true old world and the birthplace of civilization, or the cradle of civilization. I'm going to stop right there a quick bit. All these continents are old world, but the older civilizations were in America. They're so damn old that they've been forgotten. I talked about the Timbuktu in freaking California, all right? I talked about there's a Malibu in California, all right? There's also a Timbuktu in Mexico. They had these empires all the way from what you call Canada going down to Brazil or Argentina. Black empires here in Americas. Right? You gotta get off this slave trade narrative, man. Cause it's really aggravating. Cause I hear Negroes talking about we come from Nigeria. We live nothing like them, man. Nothing. But I keep hearing this from these so-called boule educated Negroes. And like I said, I'm an educated black man, but I'm not a Negro. And I'm tired of these self-hating boule Negroes who have not put in the work or done real research, or they refuse to do that because they want to be accepted by white folks. That's what these Negroes are about. But I'm going to go on with this, man. Well, since Timbuktu was established by the Khalifa Moors, who were very advanced people, no wonder Timbuktu was a source of light for the world at one point in time, because it was virtually the same civilization as the Khalifa Moors. Yes, we have a connection with the state of California in the fact that Moors of Timbuktu and Khalifa Moors are both very advanced people. Right, Timbuktu is a famous place that was established by the Kushite Moors from Kush, which is also in Americas. Timbuktu was once a major learning center, university, and source of light, knowledge for the rest of the world. Yes, the Moors, blacks, are the true mothers and fathers of civilization. All right. How far did Timbuktu extend? Well, okay, let me get it focused. How far did Timbuktu extend? Well, we have 3 of them. So it is extended from Timbuktu, California, to Timbuktu, New Jersey, New Jerusalem, to Timbuktu, Mexico. Credits given to a friend of mine named Tram Dickerson L. for research because he told me about the Timbuktu in Americas, which I've been knew about this, but here we go. Now, let us discuss Timbuktu, New Jersey, New Jerusalem. First, Timbuktu. New Jersey was part of the territory land of the Holy Land that stretched from New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida. Florida covered several states during the 15th century before Spain, Rome invaded. I must put emphasis on the territory of Washington, D.C., since this is currently the capital of the United States. The interesting thing about Washington, D.C. is that you have an Egyptian state-style obelisk at the Washington Monument. This obelisk, phallus, penetrates the area of Virginia, Virgin, and Mary. Maryland means the land of Mary, Meru, or the land of the Moors. The Washita Moors built Washington, D.C., and all things Tartarian, as in the Great Tartary, because America's India superior. The word Washington even comes from the word Washita. Washington, D.C. was designed by Moors named Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Banneker named it Washington, D.C. because the word Washington comes from the word Washita. Benjamin Banneker was never a slave. All right. In fact, Banneker was a prince of the Lenape, Abnaki Indians, aka Delaware Moors. The Delaware Moors were, of course, a part of the Washita Moor Empire. Lenape literally means we the people and or true people. The preeminent in the U.S. Constitution proves that we, the people, the Lenape, created the United States when the Lenape sat down with the Europeans to create a more perfect union. This means that the Washita Moors already had a nation already established in America before the conquest. Here is the exact quote coming from the preamble of the U.S. Constitution. We, the people of the U.S., in order to form a more perfect union. Benjamin Banneker, known as Chief Justice Big Ben Bay Emmanuel Mu Ali, who was a prince that built halls, large temples, hence the origin of the name Prince Hall. Benjamin Banneker, a.k.a. Benjamin Franklin, Ben Bay, Emmanuel Mu Ali, and or Prince Hall, was a Washita Mu'or Islamic Jew from the tribe of Abanakai, meaning the father of serpents. They are also called the serpent of wisdom. Banaka comes from Banika, Abanika, which was the name of the lands of the so-called Banneker family in Delaware, Philadelphia, Maryland, and Virginia. Benjamin Banneker, Ben Yamin Banaka, the head of the order of mystics of the Wishakan, if I'm pronounced correctly. No, the Wissahikan is another spelling for the name Uakshaton or Kushitan or Wichita, and later Europeanized name Washington. Washita in English is the Greenland. In the ancient hieroglyphics of Kama-at, Egypt, the Greenland was the Uatchata, the original name for the Nile Delta. The ancient Moorish order of the mound builders of El Moorish Mystic Council, also known as the Americo-Rosicrucian Supreme Council Quakers, was instrumental in constructing both the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, originally the Constitution for the United States of America, via Dr. Elim El Bay. All right, I'm gonna skip on from there. I showed you pictures of I showed you pictures of the Aboriginal blacks of the Northeast in one of my previous videos. All right, which is the area going to Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and all that area. Then I showed you pictures before of the Virginian Negroes, the Aboriginal blacks rocking afros. We cannot continue to allow foreigners to tell our history, even if the foreigners who look like us, all right? Because there's a lot of foreign Negroes who look like us who continue to push this lie that we're just slaves from Africa. And there's too much documented proof that we're already here. All right, I'm going to go on to a little further with page 90. All right, Timbuktu. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm going to read a little bit of Upper Timbuktu, land of the blacks, was in Timbuktu, Mexico, and it extended to Timbuktu in South America, near the Ghana region. All right, and I'm going to go further down. Let's see, I'm going to go further down. The said place names composed the first Mali, Upper Mali, Ghana, Songhai, Timbuktu empires, Mauritania. Since these same place names are also in Africa and also associated with African Mali, Ghana, Songhai, Songday, and Timbuktu empires. All right, and I'm going to go. These were Muslim civilizations because these empires were under the Shira law, Islamic law, and the people were Kushite blacks, and Kushites were Moors, Hebrews, Ethiopians, Egyptians, Phoenicians, etc. All right, I'm going to skip on because I don't want to read all this. And I've shown this book before, but I'm going to skip on. And what I'm going to go, here's an image of the supposedly slaves that were sold here. They had Hebrews on there, not later on they recreated and made it Negroes. Hebrews, later on Negroes. But I'm going to go on to further down here because I'm kind of skipping around this video. And what page I'm going to go to? No, not that page. I'm going to this page because I wanted to emphasize certain things. I had to condense this video, man, because I want to show you certain things. I want to pick up on something. Here it is right here. Okay, this is one of the Negroes from an Andrews family over in Europe. All right, now I showed you before on J.A. Rogers' Nature Knows those color lines, those black people, those heads of those black people, those rulers. Now, one clown came on my page and tried to argue with me and say they was Africans. Those ones are Africans. Those are the Aboriginal black people of Europe. All right, rulers of Europe. Not all black people in Europe were slaves. In fact, the original people who ruled Europe were black. Those names that you had were coming from so-called black people, not white folks. Because I keep hearing Negroes say this, man. Not white folks, but I want you to pick up on certain things, man. And pick up on some of my older videos when I said this, okay? Here goes. Let me get it focused. The legend of Saint Sarah from India Superior, is that she allegedly bore a child from Jesus that established the famed Merovingian bloodline, aka the Dragon Kings, Christ Kings, or the Holy Grail bloodline. The Merovingians, son of Virgin Mary, were French Moors, high priests of Anu. They established the tribe of Judah, Ptah, in Europe. This dynasty was the bloodline of King David the biblical King David, aka Prester John, aka King Arthur of myth, and the dynasty ruled Europe for over 500 years. Most European royalty claimed descent from the Merovingian kings. The Merovingian kings, as Saracens, French Moors, worshipped Saint Sarah as their god, Mother Mary or Godmother, because their immense mystical powers came from her. Because of Mount Meru, Saint Sarah is the source force of all life and all knowledge. Now I showed you the pictures. You go back to the Nature Knows No Color Line, get that book, and you see this image. This is one of the black family on the crest of Moorish families who ruled Europe. All right, who was a Saracen? Well, a Saracen were old Arabs, so they were Moors, blacks. Figure 65. This is it right here, 65. Andros, Ross, family royal crust, and is represented by a Saracen head or a Moor head. The Moor head was used in ancient times as the family brand or logo to signify that the family's wealth and status. They ruled there, all right? The Andrews family was a powerful medieval family that ruled Europe, and their crest is found in many places. The Andrews family is from Scotland, and they are descendants from St. Andrews. A lot of those Negroes that were expelled out of Europe, especially Scotland, were shipped here to America. That's just slavery being shipped here. You have black Europeans, not Africans, black Europeans. I'm going to go on, all right? St. Andrews was the first apostle and brother of St. Peter. I'll skip down, all right? St. Andrews is also the patron saint of Scotland, Blackland. St. Andrews was crucified under X and had the same kind of powers and wisdom that Jesus had. Hence the reason why the acts of St. Peter were removed from the Bible was to hide the fact. His brother St. Peter, the first pope, shaped the keys of St. Peter, the coat of arms of the papacy, in the shape of the Phoenician Taur X, which is Orion's belt or the Crook's constellation, as a tribute to his brother. Now, I'm going to skip on, man. And I'm going to show you this image of this X, man. And I remember I kept talking about, you seen that X symbol, man. You see that X symbol over here in the Americas, even on the building structure, and you see the X symbol on the shield of those black Moors or those black Europeans, Aboriginal blacks from Europe. I showed you that image of the X, man. I showed you that image. I want you to look hard. Here's the X in Americas, man. That Confederate flag. They stole that from the Aboriginal blacks that were already here. Here we go. Yes, X marks the spot, since the center star in figure 68 indicates where to find the direct center or the source of creation. For example, let us examine. This is what's figure 68, which the Confederate flag of the Iroquois Confederacy, the Washita Moors. You can see the figure 56 has the 4 points that meet the center star, the source, which is symbolic of the 4 rivers emanating from the tree of life, Mother Mary of Christ, in the center of the Garden of Eden. Now the original flag had the battle emblems on there, and then the different Indian names on there. All right. So these bastards took this. Okay, the modern day Confederate flag has a total of 13 stars. 3 stars in each one of its 4 points of 4 lamps, 12 stars, with 1 star in the center source, totaling 13 stars. 13 is the number of creation and a new beginning. The human form is composed of 13 major joints. The Confederate flag also has the same meaning of the sun going through the 12 signs of the zodiac, which equals 13, or Christ and his 12 disciples, which equals 13. The modern day Confederate flag was copied from the original Confederate flag because all they did was remove the battle cannons. All they did was remove the battle cannons that was in the center of the flag and replace it with a star in the center, and remove the names of the Indian tribes and that was associated with the Southern flag or the Confederate flag. Remember, the original Confederacy were black Aboriginal tribes because, like the Cherokee, they weren't no actual tribe of the Cherokee. They were a confederacy of various different tribes. They were a confederacy of various different tribes. I'm gonna keep going. They took that, man. This was all done so that Europeans could steal the symbol away from the Moors and convert it into a symbol of hate and slavery, so that the Moors cannot associate themselves with it and their southern heritage to the south. Yes, Moors owned the South because only Indians had confederacies. Therefore, this flag could never possibly belong to Europeans from the South because Europeans did not have confederacies because only Indians did. The first slave owner in America was Anthony Johnson. He was a Moor black. You even had black Confederate generals or soldiers according to the book Black Confederates and Black Slave Owners by Charles K. Barrow. All right, I'm going to skip down a little bit. This is going to be my final part here. Oh, I'm going to read this part right here. The real Civil War was fought over land rights of mostly white slaves. You had more whites in slavery than blacks in the South because of Moors on the South. I talked about their white slaves here. There were white slaves here because they were being sacrificed by the Aboriginal black tribes who were already here. Because they were warned with different groups that were over here, that came over here. All right. The real Cherokee Nation were infiltrated by Europeans. Oh, let me get clear. The real Cherokee Nation were infiltrated by Europeans and Mongols. Now, the original so-called Mongols were melanated people, black people, all right? You got these pale people came later on who were already mixed coming over here. The dark, copper-colored indigenous people of the tribes were reclassified as freedmen. They were discriminated against. Most were kicked off the land. The European $5 Indians owned prisoners of war, aka slaves, under the Cherokee Nation after it was overthrown, but the actual indigenous Cherokee did not. Did the Cherokees own slaves? Slaves, yes. The Cherokees owned white slaves that were shipped from Europe to the Americas to work on southern plantations owned by Berber Indian Cherokees that were also called Moors, according to these following books. And they showed you, here's the books that are on here. All right, there's few of them I have, but you did have white slaves who were in Africa, particularly North Africa, that they had white slaves. And I'm going to stop right there, man. My time's about to run out of this book. I went over bits and pieces. My main emphasis on this video is to show the various different black groups that were here. We got to get out of this thinking. The first time we came over here was some Africans sold us off as slaves. You had massive, numerous black empires over here in Americas. I talked about the Timbuktu. This book talked about Timbuktu. Now, I didn't get that information from this book. I've been through that. I had my encyclopedias that's talking about the Timbuktu in California, and Timbuktu in Mexico, and the Timbuktu over in New Jersey. And they always try to say white folks created. It means the land, that's the land of the blacks. Or the land where you get the great knowledge from. Remember, I said, brothers and sisters over here in